we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today you're thinking about making the move to Colorado, but you are not a fan of Denver at all. We're here to talk about where you should think about living, and we're starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. Listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around the Denver Metro or Colorado Front Range, this is definitely the channel for you, and you're going to want to click that subscribe button below. And as much as I try to be a creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we love helping people like you move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person, answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there, winning if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is where to live in Colorado if you are not a fan of Denver. So every week I'm having these great conversations with people, and I realize that we fall into one of three categories. I have some folks that Denver is important to them, or a big city is important to them. They want to have quick access. Maybe they don't want to live in the city, but they want to be 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes away. Then I have some other folks who, they kind of want to be in the suburbs. Maybe they get down a couple times a month, once a month, and so they want to be distant but not too far. And then I would imagine the variety of people listening to this video or watching this video, you're looking for something where maybe you get down to the city once or twice a year. Maybe you go to a sporting event, a concert, but otherwise you don't want to deal with Denver. You don't want to deal with city. You don't necessarily want to deal with traffic if you can avoid it. So the communities we're going to talk about today are roughly 30 to 45 minutes to maybe up to an hour drive time from Denver. So if you need to get down there again for a big event, or if you need to get to Denver International Airport, you're not doing a day trek to get there. You still have access, but you're in a community where you don't feel Denver. You feel like you're living in Colorado, but you don't have to deal with the state's capital. So we begin the conversation south of Denver in Castle Rock, Colorado, which is roughly 35 to 45 minutes from the southern tip of Denver. It could be an hour if you, and I say hour if you're hitting big traffic in the Denver Tech Center, Greenwood Village, and then up into Denver. Some of you are going to care about that drive time, and some of you are going to tell me, Jimmy, I don't want to deal with Denver, period, but that's about what you are looking at. Castle Rock is growing fast. Master plan neighborhoods, great parks, outlet shopping, and some serious mountain views. Castle Rock is a beautiful place. You're sitting kind of in this valley, mountains to either side. You've got the Castle Rock right there next to you. It's a very pretty place. Schools in Castle Rock are covered by Douglas County, at least for your public schools, and Douglas County is one of the highest rated school districts in all of Colorado and certainly in the Denver Metro. So Castle Rock will be high on a lot of people's list for that reason. And I feel like Castle Rock is that clean, family-friendly or family-first type community without being totally boring because of it. I have a 2-year-old, what do I know? Now, Castle Rock will often be compared to a suburb of Denver just to its northwest-ish, and that's Highlands Ranch. Whereas in Highlands Ranch, you'll see a lot of homes that are in the $800,000 plus to well over $1 million range. In Castle Rock, you can find a home between $600,000 to $800,000, if not lower. And we're talking single family. You can find it on a larger lot. And it's also just far enough from Denver to breathe. So again, you're close enough to hit the airport if you need to, but if you stick around Castle Rock or within, I'd say, that 20, 30 minute driving range around it, you're not dealing with Denver at all. So if you want space, you want good schools, you want a Chick-fil-A within 5 minutes, Castle Rock is probably going to be one you're going to check out. Next up on the list is Golden, Colorado, located due west of Denver, typically up 6th Avenue, leaving the city. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video, all of these communities are 30 minutes or more outside of Denver. I mean, there are eastern sides of Golden where you could probably be in Denver in 25 minutes. So somebody's gonna Google and tell me that. Congratulations for being able to Google. But Golden is both the closest geographical community we're gonna cover, but it still gives you that outside of Denver, definitely Colorado mountain living. When we say it's the gateway to the West, we mean it. So Golden is tucked against these foothills. It's smaller, it's historic, it's packed with outdoorsy charm. For people who are going to be a fan of communities like a Boulder, Golden is sometimes nicknamed Baby Boulder. A lot of those same feelings. Great downtown area that we're gonna get into, some hiking, just a lot going on. So think breweries, think bikes, think bison sightings, think all of that in one afternoon. Now, Golden is not cheap. It's gonna be one of the more expensive communities that you are looking at. So expect older homes from the 700,000s to new builds pushing, well over $1 million. And Golden has two types of living. You can be near its downtown, which has a ton of walkability. It's one of my absolute favorite downtowns. Washington Avenue, filled with shops and coffee shops and breweries, and the Clear Creek Canyon runs right into Golden. It's just a beautiful town in general. And then you can get farther west and farther northwest into Golden, where you get much more suburb, much more mountain-like living. And not only is Golden typically discussed as being walkable, as being safe, you are literally 5 minutes from hiking trails, and you're 20 from skiing, on I-70. You are not far from the mountains and getting up to some of those lifts. Schools in Golden, pretty solid. Jeffco schools. It has a quirky independent streak to it with Jeffco schools. So again, you're going to want to do your due diligence. But I think there's just this love that people have for Golden when they see it. It's one of those communities that I personally would love to live in at some point in my life, and definitely one that, again, if you can afford that price point, you're going to want to explore. Next up, we're going to head north about 45 minutes from Denver to Erie, Colorado, one of the fastest growing towns in the entire nation. I've said in other videos, Erie was this town. Growing up as a kid, my father would take me up there. There's an international speedway. It's about 3/8 of a mile around, and that was the only thing there. You got off the highway, here was this racetrack, otherwise just open fields. Those open fields have become a pretty impressive community. So obviously with that, a ton of new construction there in Erie. So Erie sits right between Boulder and Denver. So you get kind of the best of both worlds, but you don't have the intensity of either. And because of how new and how fast Erie is growing, it really is a community that's thought through things. You're gonna see, again, a lot of master plan communities. You're gonna see a lot of new construction. You're gonna think a lot of areas that are great for families. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that you can't move to Erie by yourself or you can't move with a couple. It's just something that as life progresses, and if you have plans for a family in your future, Erie is going to be a great community for that. Some of my favorite things about Erie, you've got a lot of big rec centers, you've got trails for days, you got charter school options. A lot of my friends mentioned how popular that is. And you've got homes from, the high 500s, let's say roughly into the 900s. Again, as of the making of this video. So a lot of variety there, a lot of options there in Erie, and that's part of the reason people are exploring it. And plus, as I mentioned, you're about 30 minutes from Boulder, and if you want to get down to Denver, you've got about a 40 to 45 minute drive to hit there, not too far from the airport at all. So you still have that access, but if you're in Erie, you are not feeling the presence of Denver. I should also mention you're very close to both Longmont and Broomfield, which are huge economic hubs, a lot of jobs in those two cities. So the way I would preface it is, if Boulder is the elite private school kid, Erie is their chill, smarter than you think cousin who plays 3 sports and helps their mother with the groceries. Like, it's got a lot of those same feels. It's just not as pretentious. I'm sorry, Boulder. I don't mean to say you're pretentious. And if you know anything about me and how much a fan I am of downtown areas, Erie has a great downtown area. A couple of my friends own businesses along Main Street there. Just a lot to do, and just enough, right? It's not this massive, small town downtown. It's just enough. Some shops, some coffee shops, definitely something you're gonna want to explore. Moving right along, we actually head back down south. We're gonna go south of Castle Rock to, I believe, might be tied to Longmont, the farthest location from Denver, at least in our list here today, and that is Monument. So this is the first time I've really discussed Monument in a video. And so Monument is technically in the Colorado Springs metro area. It's a suburb of Colorado Springs, but you're just about an hour from Denver, depending on the day. So there are a lot of people who, again, they need the access to the airport, or they want to be able to get to Denver. Again, occasionally, maybe you're a Bronco fan, you need to get up here for 8 home games a year. So Monument will be right on that threshold of about an hour, hour 15 if there's traffic. In Monument, you truly get stunning mountain views, you get small town vibes, and some of the top public schools in the state. Plus, home prices there are relatively safe, at least as far as what we've seen so far. You could still find a decent house in Monument sitting between $550,000 and $750,000. Now, I know this when I mention these prices, first and foremost, we're talking single-family homes. We can get into condos and townhomes, and I don't want you to lose your mind, because you might be moving from a community right now where you're like, wait a minute, I could get a house for $250,000. Take this with a grain of salt. This is just kind of your overall average numbers for the location on those single family homes. And after you overcome that price point, what you're getting is a newer 4-bed home, 3-bath home with a backyard and one heck of a view. Monument is definitely one of those locations. I love flying my drone and I love just kind of exploring. You get that bird's eye view and you start to see, okay, what's over here? Oh wait, what is over there? Monument was filled with that. Every time I fly my drone there, I am caught up in having to fly a little farther or get in the car and drive a little farther to see over that next peak into that next valley. And if we had to talk about a downside of Monument, again, it is very suburb. I mean, you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere in some of these neighborhoods. So you're having a quick drive into Colorado Springs, again, if you want any type of city access. And then, if you're commuting north to Denver, like if that's part of the work, that will be a bit of a commute. Monument is also very popular for military families, a lot of them who are going to make that quick drive into Colorado Springs. So that's something to consider. Overall, to me, Monument is kind of like Colorado's best kept secret. People whisper about it at their kids' soccer games, but they don't post about it online. They don't talk about it a lot. It's kind of like, shh, keep it to ourselves. A couple more for you before we wrap up, and one that is rapidly growing on me, and that is Longmont, located about 50 minutes north of Denver. I was gonna say Monument and Longmont, pretty comparable as far as distance, but we'll call it 50 minutes for the sake of this conversation. And what I realized is that Longmont has kind of been in Boulder's shadows for years, but in the last decade, it's really come into its own. So you have this community that is about 20 minutes from Boulder as well, so you have quick access. You've got great views, you've got mountain living, you've got a lake, great lake up there, you've got amazing neighborhoods. Prospect Newtown is just one that I'm going to get out. Prospect Newtown, one of my absolute favorites. Very tough to film with the drone because there's so much tree coverage that when you take off, you just can't see. It's like a canopy over this really cool, imagine a small town within a suburb. You just kind of pull into, you don't even realize what it is, and then all of a sudden you're like in this really small town filled with custom home builds where no house is cookie cutter. Every single one is unique. Awesome. But Longmont has that real town feel. It's got a great downtown, Main Street, one of my absolute favorites. You've got breweries, you've got tech jobs, you've got open space. The schools in Longmont are part of St. Vrain Valley School District, which is one of the most innovative in the state. You've got housing that ranges from older homes in the, let's call it $450,000 plus range, up to again some $800,000 plus homes when you're talking about Prospect, when you're talking about West Longmont. So I can tell you, to me, what makes it great is that you can still get a single family with a yard and access to Boulder, with access to Denver, heck, even access to Fort Collins at a reasonable price. And as I mentioned, I'm a fan. Downtown Longmont's a great area. And I'll wrap up with a bonus community. I want to give one last one, and that is Brighton, located, let's say roughly 45 minutes northeast of Denver. Very quick access to the airport. That's going to be one of the most popular things about Brighton, along with its affordability. And I feel like Brighton just doesn't get enough love, but it should. So, again, that quick drive to Denver, 20 minutes from DIA, Brighton gives you space, it gives you affordability, it gives you convenience, plus it's becoming a landing zone for people who want out of the chaos, but they still want, again, that need, they want or need access to the airport, to the city, but again, they just want to be kind of out of the city and be able to enjoy themselves. You've got big name builders that are growing the community there in Brighton, so you've got tons of newer homes that are sitting between, let's say, 450,000 to 650,000. Some of them offering some pretty insane incentives to buy them. And it's also part of 27J School District, which is improving year over year. Brighton also has randomly one of the largest high schools in the entire state, a ton of open space, pretty cool downtown, not huge by any means, but again, enough to where, you know, if you're just going out for the night, you want to grab a bite, you want to grab a drink, you want to grab a coffee in the afternoon, it's there for you. So to me, like, Brighton is kind of that community that, listen, if you haven't been there, it kind of felt like you were out in the middle of nowhere, and for a while there was nothing there, similar to maybe in Erie, and now, you know, all of a sudden they had a Costco, and they had a new rec center, and then, you know, all of a sudden that person living there has better home equity than you, and you're like, hey, what's going on here? There are a lot of positives working in Brighton's favor, and it's a community you might want to check out. So overall, as you look at this, you have kind of your outliers, if you will. You know, if you're looking to be as far away from Denver, but again, you don't want to drive all day to get to the airport, that's probably when you're going to look at a Castle Rock, a Longmont, and definitely a Monument. If you want to be a little closer, or you want that access to be a little faster, that's where you're going to look at a Brighton. That's when you're going to look at a Golden. But as always, I love hearing your feedback, and next week we will cover some areas far and away from Denver. If you're thinking about moving to Colorado, but you don't want to have anything to do with Denver, we'll cover that. In the meantime, your questions, your emails, your texts, feel free to fire away at those, knowing that I am always the person answering those questions for you. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jim Everett. That was Where to Live in Colorado if you are not a fan of Denver. Till I see you next time, peace.